Good morning, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And I want to talk about this modern psychology trend of conditioning people to be more patient and more tolerant, resilient, and have, a good attitude towards people by the approach is to harass them basically until they adapt to it, with the expectation that when they return to a default setting, a normal place and time with other people and normal socialization, that they will have become stronger and more resilient and patient and all those things. However, I want to respond to this idea, if you understand what I'm saying, that there's an expectation that there's an area for improvement, first of all, that there's some possibility that a person could be more patient or should be more patient or more, tolerant and, positive-minded towards average setting kinds of things, when such a possibility is not always guaranteed. It's not a given. So let me put that another way. The expectation that, harassing somebody or provoking them until they adapt to it makes sense if there is a measurable, realistic room for growth in that direction. But as you've probably heard, you cannot always improve something. You cannot actually improve on perfection, as they say. Not that people are perfect, not that anybody is perfect. However, there has to be a reasonably large area that they can grow into that represents improvement in those areas. Where some people are not just patient to begin with, but there's such a thing called overpatience. Overpatience. Now, maybe you've heard of this, where somebody who is being provoked in outside of behavioral modification, who's just having to endure something that is unfair, unjust, or undeserved. There's a point beyond which, if you continue to be patient, you're actually doing yourself a disservice and doing potentially yourself and your dependents great harm by refusing or neglecting to defend yourself beyond that point. So you find this a lot, where people will expect that after they provoke you, you will improve. But if you have already improved in a certain area to the point where it's productive and healthy, beyond which it would not be, the modification is uncalled for. It's unhealthy, unproductive, and can only do harm, because it's going to push you in any direction but a good one, because there is no good direction. If you've already mastered being patient, if you've already mastered judgment and proper socialization, where you're getting along with people when you should, defending yourself and standing up for yourself when you should, any kind of modification beyond that point is only going to push you in some bad direction. So it's logic. But unfortunately, the point here in my video is that there are people, psychologists included, who think that this treatment, this modification program kind of thing, is always beneficial. It's some kind of service that everybody can benefit from, regardless of how you begin, who you are to begin with, how much patience you already have. And these same people will tell you that there's not such a thing as too much patience. They don't agree with there's something called being over patient. They think that you should just, no matter what, just sit there and take it. I disagree. It's hard to disagree that there's a point beyond which, if you fail to defend yourself, if you fail to assert yourself and your position, you will lose your place in line, you will lose your meal right out of your mouth, and you will lose everything you have. Okay, and you cannot help people. You cannot be strong in this life towards yourself or your family if you do not know when to stand up for yourself. And you cannot be said to be patient beyond that point. You cannot be said that patience is called for. No, you should actually get hostile. You should get angry, and you should deal with it, and you should give somebody who is provoking you, perhaps, something to remember. And this is the point of it. When you defend yourself, when you stand up for yourself, you're actually creating a memory for the other person. That's mainly what it's about. And it doesn't have to be about injury. It doesn't have to be about physically disabling them or blocking them somehow, but giving them a reason to think twice about it. First and foremost, going from 0 to 100, that's a problem. You shouldn't just go from patient to psychopath. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there needs to be some point of logical, reasonable escalation where you're no longer patient and you're telling the person, here's my boundary, do not cross it again, in no uncertain terms, right? And there's people, unfortunately, who just don't understand or agree with this, and they call it a service. They try to amputate your ability to defend yourself. They try to grind off your balls, figuratively speaking, and they say, oh, it's going to help you to just be infinitely patient, because that's, they use all kinds of reasons. Oh, the Bible says be patient. It's a Christian virtue. It's things that are just admirable and decent in society. You should just never, ever get angry, because it's a negative emotion and it's unproductive. If you fail to get angry when somebody's taking your last bit of food in the jungle, they live and you don't. So be patient and starve to death, potentially, in some cases. If you need a better example, I can't think of one. If you like this video, or if you don't like this video, if you agree or disagree, please reach out down below with questions or comments. Thank you.